Hi everyone, we're going to be watching Crowbcat. He has a video called Back 4 Blood proves that Valve carried Left 4 Dead. Huge fan of Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, fantastic games, very enjoyable. Whereas Back 4 Blood I don't really remember much about, despite it only coming out a year or two ago. Left 4 Dead I probably have a few thousand hours, and Back 4 Blood maybe 10 or 20.
So long that it was really easy for us to just show them stuff. They'd be like, here, check this out. We had a prototype up and running. Keep in mind, at this point, you know, the environment is all just big gray boxes. It's not pretty at all. The infected are still the sort of cheesy terrorist zombies.
I mean, it was already fun. So then it was just like, well, now we just got to make it look good.
Of Turtle Rock Studios. This is pretty exciting for all us Left 4 Dead fans. Of course, you guys are known for all the amazing work Left 4 Dead, and now you're building building on the legacy with this new zombie co-op shooter. What's new? What can you tell us about it, Chris?
Well, we wanted to do more and bigger, right?
Okay, here we go. Here's the gameplay reveal of Back 4 Blood.
Excited for the reveal?
Not me. You all lost people. Lost someone close.
I don't actually remember it being too buggy, but I remember the AI and the bots being terrible, so this is kind of in line with how I remember the game. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Evangelo just killing himself. I don't really remember the monsters being too buggy. Oh, that's terrible. Does seem quite buggy. The interesting thing about Back 4 Blood is I remember playing it and feeling like there was so much missing compared to Left 4 Dead. I couldn't actually identify what it was. It just felt like a okay game at best, very forgettable, not very fun, is not what you want from a zombie killing horror game. And these big guys, the tall men, I remember they would just attack non-stop.
Since killing zombies is such a big part of this game, we invested a lot of time into making their death animations more dramatic than simple ragdolls. We had a professional stuntman on a motion capture stage perform about 100 different dying animations from different kinds of weapons and hit from different directions, like from the front or behind. We then combined these mocap animations with the physics-driven ragdolls. The result is a really cinematic experience, with zombies that stumble for a few steps into a wall, then slide down the wall and collapse, for example. It's the best of both.
So that's interesting. They would combine the stuntman animations of zombies dying with also the environment. So they'll begin their death animation and then hit a wall and stop and kind of just slide down, rather than continuing the animation kind of just against the wall. And the interesting thing is that these are the things that you wouldn't necessarily notice while you're playing. Like, I don't recall ever thinking, oh, the death animations in Left 4 Dead, they're really good, it makes the game so unique. But when it's missing from the game, it's very noticeable, and it's part of, I feel like, what gives a game soul and makes it feel like it's been worked on as a passion project rather than a money grab. Yeah, look at that. Just feels like moving targets. die immediately. Doesn't feel like a threat compared to that. You wouldn't notice that while you're playing. When it's absent, it makes such a big difference.
We treat the infected horde as a major character in Left 4 Dead and spend a lot of effort in making their movements believable. The common hordes stagger around, cough, vomit, fight amongst themselves, lean against walls, sit on the ground, and lie down as part of their wandering behaviors. When they see a survivor, they become enraged, taking off in a full sprint, leaning into their turns, trying to get to their victim.
That is terrifying. Look at that. In Back 4 Blood, it doesn't it doesn't feel like they're actually trying to kill you. They kind of just feel like fodder. Whereas look at this, look. He's
wanted
actually
to
trying
express
to
this rage in their
eat you to
faces
death
as
in
well.
Left 4 Dead.
So we found efficient ways for each member of the horde to make intense facial expressions.
Very lazy and lifeless. Yeah, and that's kind of what they were talking about earlier. Can you see how he goes into his knockback animation and hits the wall? Whereas in Back 4 Blood, you punch them and they kind of just continue into the wall. The animation doesn't stop. It looks like just one animation.
It was a challenge to create this diversity of looks for common infected and take advantage of unique clothing or uniforms in specific areas. For instance, lots of TSA agents are spawned in the airport, hospital patients around the hospital, cops in the streets, office employees in the offices, etc. It helped to reinforce the sense of a vast epidemic.
It does.
We wanted to add further variety to Left 4 Dead 2's campaigns, so we extended this notion when we added the Mudman,
people who've
the Clown,
transformed,
the Construction Worker, and the Riot Cop.
Get the head!
So is that the only variety in Back 4 Blood? I can't really remember seeing any other kind of zombies. Yeah, the fire animation, completely different, so much better in Left 4 Dead. Again, it feels like it takes a lot more to stop them, because even if they're technically already dead when they run through the fire, it feels as if they're still coming after you. Yeah, that's quite bad. Still got floating. Yep, shoot him in the chest and his head disappears. But you shoot them with a 30 caliber bullet and no damage at all, it looks like.
Feel it.
Again, just lazy.
Since players spend the vast majority of their time shooting the common infected, we wanted to improve the feedback and visceral nature of this experience. In Left 4 Dead 1, we provided only the ability to shoot off limbs. Now, in Left 4 Dead 2, there are 43 unique ways to damage an infected.
43 ways?
Because many of these wounds are non-fatal, players are able to wound an infected more than once, resulting in about 780 possible damage combinations.
780 combinations. Probably wouldn't even see half of them. It adds so much, and you can feel when it's missing, but when it's there, you don't notice it too much. Whereas in Back 4 Blood, you stab someone in the stomach and their back apparently is shredded, or they just take no damage at all. You axe them in the back and they're missing their chest. So much more brutal in Back 4 Blood. They just disappear. Yeah, look at that. They just vaporize immediately. Just looks so bad. It doesn't feel fun either compared to this. Bearing in mind, Left 4 Dead came out 15 years ago, and Back 4 Blood came out, what, last year? And they haven't managed to improve, they've just gotten worse. It's the exact same genre, same game style. It felt worse in every way except for the graphics, maybe. And the bodies actually float in Left 4 Dead, whereas Back 4 Blood, they just sink. That is really bad. Destructional. Left 4 Dead, I remember a big part of the fun was you go into a room stacked with zombies, you shoot up the place,
the environments
destroy
in Left 4
everything.
Dead
Yeah,
are
like
geometrically
this.
complex and littered with breakable and movable objects.
Of course, Left 4 Dead has a big advantage though, being on the Source engine. Although this isn't very realistic, you can't shoot a gas station and blow it up, it's a big part of the fun that's missing, just the destruction of the environment. Whereas Back 4 Blood, you see things like that, explosions don't feel like explosions at all when you shoot a boomer. There's
This restaurant was one of the first areas we populated with tables and chairs. In early playtests, the survivor would pop a boomer, and the resulting explosion sent tables and chairs flying everywhere.
Just goes
it was
up.
a great effect. We decided to furnish a few more areas like this, so that more players would be likely to experience it.
Darker and the characters actually produce shadows. Yeah, Back 4 Blood and no shadows.
In Left 4 Dead, players carry flashlights to illuminate the environment.
Dark and intimidating.
These shadow-casting light sources not only add surface richness and provide important visual depth cues, they tie into gameplay.
Shh! Witch, turn it off!
Because a player's flashlight is attached to his or her weapon, the light becomes pointed off to the side when reloading or performing a shove attack. Like so many of Left 4 Dead's game mechanics, this encourages cooperation, as players know they may be left in the dark if they choose to reload at the wrong moment.
It's just so much scarier. It adds so much more.
Cutting cross country will save you time on foot. Send in another crew to hold the post once things calm down. Right now, I need you to get to the apartments.
In playtests, people were often confused by certain events and elements in the game. The addition of musical cues helped distinguish these events and diminish player confusion.
Players who leave the music on are treated to a variety of subtle audio cues that not only deepen the horror experience, but make them better players.
We base the music on what the player is actually experiencing and not on what we want them to experience.
Did Back 4 Blood not have any music at all? Just a beeping noise. That is so bad, and no effort at all, no ambience.
We keep the music appropriate to each player's situation and highly personalized. The music engine in Left 4 Dead has a complete client-side multi-track system per player that is completely unique to that player and can even be monitored by the spectators.
Wow, I rarely heard this song though, because I rarely died when I played Left 4 Dead. Is that the equivalent of a tank? I don't think a tank would be climbing over a 4x4s. I remember I hated this. They can figure out a way to make the monsters more intimidating, so they just kind of locked you into a zone.
One difficulty with the tank was that since we offset his incredible toughness by slowing him down a bit, when tank battles occurred in large outdoor spaces, he was far less effective. To offset this vulnerability, we added his rock throw and car slugging abilities.
Oh no, I remember this. This is a lot more effective than just putting a death zone around the tank with damage zone. Yeah, very familiar with that.
Finish this for me!
The AI in this game were terrible. The bots.
There, easy now.
The zombies or monsters, all of the AI in this game was just
One more scar
very,
for
very
the
bad.
collection.
So far behind Left 4 Dead, despite being 14 years older or 14 years later than Left 4 Dead. Oh, terrible.
Don't think I'm coming back out.
Mom, please! You need to take better care of that wound. Breaker, over there!
This is our world, and we're taking it back.
While there are hundreds of infected types mobbing the player in Left 4 Dead, there are only 4 survivors. To make sure these 4 stood up to close scrutiny over many hours of playtime, we decided to use photographic reference of faces and
I actually bothered to animate them.
That wasn't necessary, but thanks.
We started out by casting 4 individuals who fit the general design concepts
put some kind of effort into this.
Sweet shot.
The talent was guided through a matrix of facial expressions,
Okay, let's do it.
creating a complete catalog of movements and expressions for each character's face. This is an invaluable resource for our modelers and animators when they start to recreate these expressions in 3-dimensional models.
Compare that to the Back 4 Blood falling animation or hanging on animation and the face of Zoe there when she's being caught by a smoker. It's just so much more soul and so much more effort than Back 4 Blood.
Holy crap!
Holy shit!
You see? It works!
Fuck yeah!
One of our goals when designing the 4 survivors was to have a very diverse group of real-world characters who fit in the post-apocalyptic storyline, but that also have heroic and aspirational qualities.
They're changing. God damn it, Bill! Oh, it stinks!
Bill was a challenging design problem when it came to finding the correct balance between realism and idealism. In our first attempts, we made him look a bit too old and frail, which made him seem physically incapable of fighting against the Horde.
But I feel like
in our final design, we balanced the character backstory and the aspirational qualities, portraying Bill as a once heroic army veteran who, though older and wiser, can still excel at physical combat.
The Bill they went with probably isn't the best look they could have picked.
And
the other one does look a bit brutally.
At least that's what we call her, because she's tough, doesn't take shit from anybody, and always knows exactly what to say.
Welcome to the shit show.
Yep, that's me. My name is Holly. Just your run-of-the-mill college kid with a baseball bat. But I can also be a real softie on the inside. You know,
there's a
I'm sort
problem with a lot of the modern characters is that they all have to be really cool and badass. None of them can be sincere or have any fear. They just all need to be super cool.
The process behind designing Zoe's character wasn't as straightforward as the other three. Developing a young female in a zombie apocalypse isn't easy with a backstory like hers.
Someone's still alive.
She had to be attractive and worn down at the same time.
Thanks.
She needed to be tough and able to hold her own, even though she's occasionally terrified.
Flashlights off.
Her readability was also something we had to take into consideration.
While we were developing Left 4 Dead, we shipped a game called TF2. And Team Fortress 2 taught us a lot about things like read hierarchy and other queuing tools that you need to have in a multiplayer environment. We also wanted to push harder on the horror art direction, so one of the last things we're doing with the game before we ship it is we're redoing all of the survivor characters.
The 4 characters were designed as a unit, so that while they stand out together from the rest of the world, their strong silhouettes and color contrast provide clear reads for each individually, yet single team. We wanted to conjure 4 survivors that would resonate realistically, and thereby complete our horrifically rendered version of the zombie apocalypse, which you, the player, now find yourself in.
So what we have is this thing called Versus Mode, where you can play 4 survivors playing as humans with 4 infected, but this time as humans. And what they try to do is the survivors try to get to the end of the map.
This is where most of my time went, was the versus mode.
And we recently got to see how PvP is going to be expanded. Do you want to jump into that and talk about that newly announced
versus mode they could have made for that game?
Yeah, sure. You queue up with 3 of your friends. You go into a match, and you're playing a best of 3. So you play 2 rounds, and it's whoever lasts the longest on the cleaner side is the winner.
So it's not going to be quite the entire campaign
where
people make their way from level to level and swap.
Gets very boring
it's very much,
quickly.
Here's a hyper-focus area designed around the swarm mode, and then you're just going to have to survive longer.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly what it have. Like you say.
Remember Left 4 Dead?
One of the concerns that were
who can actually finish the
by
campaign.
People who had Left 4 Dead is, what's different enough about this to justify it being a new sequel? So we spent a lot of time talking about
because I know it came out a year after Left 4 Dead 1, maybe a year or 2.
Scale of the game,
I can see why, because I can imagine now if a game was made and they wanted to make a sequel a year later,
anything we could to make sure that our fans,
wouldn't go down well for a lot of games.
That we exist, the reason that we have a business, understood why Left 4 Dead 2 was a really positive evolution, rather than just us trying to come up with a way of, stripping money out of a successful and popular game.
Who the hell puts an evac station up 30 flights of goddamn stairs?
Come on, Coach. Maybe the helicopter. Maybe it's made of chocolate.
The mods were so good in this game. Just gave it so much replayability. Helm's Deep, Halo.
Pipe bomb out!
Is Back 4 Blood going to facilitate the modding community at all with the online element, or is it going to purely be contained game files?
It's contained. We're at launch for sure. Yeah, we're not going to have anything like that available then.
For sure. If you listen closely, you can hear my heart break.
That's why I did. Sorry. Yeah.
Valve retains Left 4 Dead, and they signed us back our logo and name. Mike's decided he was done running his own studio.
Here to talk about the co-op shooter is project lead Mike Booth.
I think at the time he was really enjoying not being the boss, so he said, I don't want to run Turtle Rock 2.0.
We've had to sit by for the past 10 years and watch other people sort of riff on something that we created. As creators of Left 4 Dead,
from the award-winning creators of Left 4 Dead,
creators of the critically acclaimed Left 4 Dead franchise,
made by the creators of Left 4 Dead.
No. Make sure the 360 was up to snuff, make sure the PC is polished, and it's going to be spectacular now.
Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, both of those I really put a lot of thought into replayability.
You can pull people back around corners that they thought
so I'm assuming these are all the Valve workers.
It's a really interesting space for that.
Are either still at Valve or maybe they've left, but they're
really honored that
probably
there's
not
such a
part
strong
of
fan base
Turtle
for
Rock Studios who made
Left 4 Dead characters.
Back 4 Blood.
There's a lot of agonizing over what's the cast of characters, who's going to want to play them, who are they in this world.
The action was sort of procedurally generated, and so we were never really sure how much time we had before there was going to be 100 zombies running at you.
Once you make debugging 10 times faster, it becomes feasible to do something that was infeasible before because of the debugging cost.
What we did was we used blood splats to differentiate similar textures and added some grind to them.
Valve time finally arrived. We set a hard date this time, I'm telling you.
I'm assuming none of these people worked on.
The goal of the director was to create kind of peaks and valleys in this estimated arousal level.
Players were not as cooperative as we hoped, and we didn't know why.
You guys refuted a rumor about Left 4 Dead 3, and I hear the giggling already, so we're going to continue with this.
Because you're playing the same mission a bunch of times, if we played the exact same line at the exact same location, it would be rapidly very tiring.
What we wanted at Valve was to create an experience of playing through a really good horror film.
Moby goes on to lead art direction for Team Fortress 2, then works on titles such as Left 4 Dead.
But I also worked on Left 4 Dead, Left 4 Dead 2.
Out of all of those people, 7 worked on Back 4 Blood. It was a very good video. I do think though that Crowbcats sometimes nitpicks some of the flaws of a game, so you know, I didn't feel like it was a bad game when I played. Definitely a letdown compared to Left 4 Dead, but I could see how some people would enjoy it, and they're free to enjoy it if they want to. You know, you're not wrong if you enjoy a game, but overall I can see why this is probably dead already. I can't imagine there's a lot of people playing it now. Just very lifeless and not fun, which for a zombie game to not be fun is probably the worst possible criticism of it. So overall, massive letdown.